So it's funny, like I've shared my story a few different times through Corner Church, and yet every time I share, I'm always like, ooh, what new thing am I going to share that people haven't heard? And then there's that, will I say anything insightful for somebody else? Or how will I look on camera? Will I look frumpy or washed out? Or silly things like that go through my mind. But when I think about my story, I grew up in a Christian home. My parents are from Missouri, and so I was actually born in Missouri. I never say I'm from Missouri because we moved from Missouri to New York and then to Texas, and I was 9 years old when we got to Texas. And so I always just say I'm from Texas because that's where I did the most of my growing up. And we were a family that was at church all the time. My parents were very, very active in the church, and so obviously I had all those experiences of different church services and Sunday school teachers and people pouring into my life, teaching me about God. But my parents really did set an example. And so one thing that they really taught me was kind of going along with James chapter 2 about faith in action. I'll show you my faith by what I do. And so my parents were, follow the 10 Commandments. You go to church, you participate, you serve in church. And I remember I was probably about 11 years old when I first remember my first service, where I was on the bus ministry team, where Saturday mornings we would get up and go to these trailer parks or apartments that were sort of close to the church and just talk to kids, invite them to church, and then Sunday morning we would go and pick them up and bring them to church. So I remember doing that, and then started teaching helping teach a 2- and 3-year-old class, and then before long I became a 2-year-old teacher, and then I was like on the drama youth team, and so I did all kinds of different things. So I learned about serving tithing from the time I was little. All the money I got, my parents taught me tithe on, so whether it was birthday money or whether it was like babysitting money or allowance, you tithed on it. So that was just a normal thing. And devotions. My parents, after dinner, we would often take turns reading a chapter from the Bible, and then whoever read the chapter that day would also then pray for the whole family. And it was one of those things that there were many times I was like, can we go a little faster? Because my show is about to start, come on, watching the clock, or like daydreaming, especially when it's, so-and-so beget, so-and-so beget, so-and-so. But that was what we did. But yet I also saw that my parents encouraged me not to just let that be the only, like going to church and having that family time, but having personal devotions. That was something they strongly encouraged and modeled for me. But then I know that Scott likes to tease me about how struggling with guilt and obligation, and my parents never made it about that you should do this out of guilt or out of obligation, but as a response to God's love. But too often that can sometimes feel like, oh man, I haven't done devotions, oh I feel bad, I haven't done that, oh I should do that, oh, and just feeling that weight because I know I should. And yet it should be that response out of the love that I have, the faith I have in God, that I then live it out and have actions. Another thing that I find that I struggle with is that being completely self-absorbed and yet insecure at the same time, where I'm like, I think I'm fine, I'm good, I do the right things, I can do it all, kind of thing, and then, why do I need God for this? And then that realization of, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, I can't do this, oh, why would God want to use me or want me in this? And so just that constant wrestling of being too self-focused and then also not, or just being insecure about stuff. And I was thinking about another thing, that when I was a teenager, probably 14-ish, I don't really remember how old, I was into writing, like, it wasn't really poems, but like I would sing, and I'm not a singer, and I had no musical talent, but I would sing them, and then I'd write down whatever I was singing. And so I had written a song, and the words were like, unto you I give my praise, unto you I give my thanks, for you have given me great riches and allowed me to have grace. And I was reflecting on that this morning. I'm like, how often do I ever think about grace now? Obviously, I wrote a little song about it when I was a teenager, but man, do I think about that often now? And I'm embarrassed or sad to say that I don't acknowledge that grace nearly as often as I should. And so there it goes back to that guilt and obligation of, oh, I feel guilty because I'm not acknowledging God enough in my life. But knowing that acknowledging that grace that God has given me, it's not a guilt thing, it's not an obligation, but it's a response of faith in action. So that's kind of my story.